So by this time, you would have heard how the Tailwind CSS story is unfolding. Adam has shared that their traffic is down by 40% over here on the docs, and the revenue is down by 80%. And part of the reason is because of things like this, where you can learn to steal any React component, right? So, I mean, chances are that if you have used Tailwind CSS in past before the AI era, you know that Tailwind actually monetizes it based on premium components, on components that you have to buy in order to access it. But the thing is, with systems like these, you would see that there is a step over here, which is asking the LLM to reconstruct. So large language models, or AI, basically is the death of front end in a way, because of front end monetization, I would rather say, because anything that you can monetize and you can at least show a preview of it, like a video or a screenshot, or worst case, if you're just previewing HTML directly, which Tailwind used to do, LLM can easily reconstruct it, right? So there is no real benefit of buying something. Unlike a course, or maybe like not even with the courses these days, a lot of learning happens directly with AI, right? So it's a changing world, it's a dynamic world, and that is what Adam shares over here, right? He says that Tailwind is the most popular it has ever been, but the traffic is still down about 40%. And this is not just Tailwind, it's basically everything, right? It's Stack Overflow I shared some time back. It probably is, I'm guessing, free code camp blog, free blogs, I'm definitely sure it is also affected with AI. It's anything that was sort of in a business of Google SEO. I would not be surprised, like Google's own traffic dipping a lot in the educational category, at least in the content creation. But this is real. This stuff is real because, AI is here, and it'll be the death of a lot of monetization models that in past worked out but would not work out now. And because of stuff like this, right? So if we go through this, I'll tell you what this person is actually saying, that how do you steal any React component? He shares that I'll show you how to steal any component on a production React website without source code or access to the repo, just the website running in our browser. Normally you would need the source code, but here's the thing. React actually leaves a lot of breadcrumbs in the browser, more than you might think. And if we are clever about collecting these breadcrumbs and feeding them to an LLM, again, the intelligence comes from the LLM itself, we can reconstruct the original components. So that's what we're going to do. So obviously it's not as stupid as just taking a screenshot and feeding it to an LLM, which would also work in a lot of cases, but LLMs are not that smart right now that they can just read or see the screenshot of the video and construct the whole thing again. But you can use a lot of help here, right? So what you can do here is, when you're looking at a React tab, the browser, there are actually two trees living in the memory. First is the DOM, which is the actual source of truth, which is actually, what you are seeing in reality. And the second is the React fiber, which is the React internal tree. It's a parallel structure that React maintains, and it knows things about DOM that DOM doesn't know. So this is basically the internal in-memory representation of sort of like the DOM itself controlled by React. So it says that we can access this from the browser, and React attaches React fiber nodes directly to the DOM elements. Since React 16's, any React app exposes this, and it's what React developer tools do under the hood. So what they're doing is they're attaching this React developer tools. I'm sure you would have used this if you're a React developer, to actually a production application, which is supposedly not supposed to have React dev tools attached, right? So they'll just hook around, they'll just see if we can change a configuration and attach it, right? And once you do that, you have access to basically the same representation that you have in development mode, but obviously slightly obfuscated, right? Where the LLM would come into picture. So we talk further about, he says that we need to discuss how do we reconstruct a component. Imagine that there's a button, with all these states, all of that. What we're going to do is collect all of these instances. For each one, we record the props it receives, the HTML it produces, all of the data, right? So you are not only just taking a snapshot, not just a screenshot of what the component is in the state right now, but you are also mimicking states with it, when it is disabled, when it is enabled, all of those things. In React Fiber, every fiber node has a type property, and for the components, this type property points to the actual function or class. It's the same reference in memory, right? So this is sort of the data that you collect. For example, sign in, submit, contact us. All of these are buttons with different types, disabled attributes, rendered. All of this information is there inside the React Fiber. So here he says that, now we have everything to prompt the LLM. For each component type, we have multiple examples of props, minified source code, and the minified code isn't super readable, but for LLMs, they just understand it remarkably well. So essentially what they are saying is that here is the React component. I'm going to show you several examples of props and HTML output. Please write clean React code that replicates this component. So you see that there is no images, nothing like that involved. It's basically like simple text-based input, which is what LLMs are really good at, right? Opus 4.5 type of things, right? So they can just create anything. So look at this. What he's saying is that we will give these examples to LLMs, that this is the code in React and this is the HTML that it produces. Then this is another code, this is another HTML. So what you are doing basically is just giving enough information, enough states to the LLM itself, asking it to, inside its own brain, figure out what is the relations, what are, which classes are common, which are specific to certain states. And you also give the source code to the LLM, which is basically like very helpful, right? Because you're giving it how the HTML button itself is constructed. So it can also take in some classes, right, which are not being used in the examples, and it can think of the states ahead of time. So LLM over here is also the piece which can help you bridge missing information. That is the core part. If you're doing it manually, it can be done manually. People have done it manually in the past. People have done all sorts of things. But the problem is that the LLMs and the AI actually makes this mainstream. It makes it super easy for anyone to do. Imagine, me saying that, Netflix movies are on torrents. Everyone knows that, not a big deal. But only a few people go about, just going through the pain of searching through torrents, skipping the malware that could come in between, having a Delge or uTorrent sort of application on their system, making it possible that it is playable on the TVs, versus if I say that, hey, on a click of a button, you can just download any video from Netflix for free of cost. Why would you pay for Netflix, right? So this is the same thing over here that's happening. Sort of similar to Tailwind example, not really, because this is a different thing, but I can probably guess that LLMs don't even need the justification to go through Tailwind stocks and websites, because they just have trained so much on that data and that information and the code base that is there that they don't need to do that anymore, right? So the assistant finally creates this component, right? So you can basically copy a very nice component like this. Now you also have part 4 over here, the verification loop. So the LLM generates a component, but how do we know if it's correct? The critical part is to make this work. We take the generated component and we render it ourselves. We pass in the same props for our example and we capture the HTML output. Then we compare if the HTML output matches the original output. And if it doesn't, you just keep on doing that, right? So you just create like a feedback loop with LLM, sort of like a test, right? For just copying a component. And the order matters. He says that some components contain other components. A login form might render a button inside of it. A card might render an avatar. When we are reconstructing the login form, we already need to have a working button. Otherwise, how would we correctly build our login form in the first place? So we process components in dependency order, start with the leaf components and then ones at the bottom of the tree. So basically what he's saying is that if you want to clone the page, you start with the lowest component, the most independent thing, and you just, keep on doing that in the tree itself as you progress towards the whole page. He says that there are a few failure cases. This works a lot of time, but below are some situations where it would not work. JavaScript animations. That is something I also had in my mind. Like I'll probably raise this question, that how do you figure out the animation stuff? So he says that imagine a progress bar with value of 90. If we snapshotted mid animation, the DOM might say 67% while the prop says 90, right? Because there may be like React has not synchronized it with the DOM yet. So we are comparing against a single frame in time, but the real component is animating. Problem is an interactive state, a drop down that's currently not open, a modal that is visible. HTML depends on the internal state and we can't observe from the props alone. Again, the fallback is when the verification fails repeatedly, we just snapshot the HTML as it. It's not a real component anymore, just frozen HTML, right? Because you have not captured the animation part. But the least we can do is keep making progress on other components. So again, there is no fix as such, given for this specific thing, but it's good that he has at least addressed the problem, that this is a real problem and you can't really clone full pages with a lot of animations and landing pages sort of things with this technique, right? Once we have reconstructed the component and all of its dependencies, we compose them into a complete component. We also copy over CSS, assets, all of these stuff, and you just get the component, right? So I mean, the rest of the part is simple. You just, once you have done this, right? And this is just a wrap up. More than anything, I really enjoyed this website in general, like the blog post or whatever it is. It's super interactive, right? So that I would probably want to copy this using their own blog post, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is very good, and this is something that would be not really possible without LLMs. So it is not possible in past to do it at scale, but now it's really easy for, for a designer, for example, in a company who's just browsing the web, loves a bunch of things, loves a bunch of stuff, and they can just take in components. So as I feel like front end and software development in general is, things that you're doing commonly, like things which are actually done by most people, like front-end web development. If you're still doing that, you must start to develop taste Because see, LLM can copy anything, right? Let's take a look at this example. It can copy anything. It can copy these tabs, it can copy these buttons, these stuff. But you also at some point have to figure out that, do we even need that in the first place in our product? Or how does that fit in the grand scheme of things within the company or within the product that we are working? So it's more about taste now, at least for the front end folks, than, you just packaging components or you just selling it. It is already failing in case of Tailwind, right? As we have seen that. And of course, like, people have come, companies have come and they have started sponsoring, but it's not a permanent solution, right? I mean, it is if Adam wanted this to be always a sponsorship based project, but I think that he always wanted this to be a business. That's why Tailwind was in the space of, selling code and selling business. Sponsorships, great, is one way of open source being working for a lot of years, but creating just business opportunity now from front-end codes or snippets in the LLM age, in the AI age, seems like a really hard thing to do. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. That is all for this video, and I will see you in the next one very soon.